It's all alive again at the National Stadium. Speeds. Was he held? Yes! Penalty! So often in the past, Wales have suffered because of penalties in vital matches.
Gordon's there. Field, surely a handball. Penalty kick. It's a penalty kick for Scotland.
Paul Bowden to take it. Oh, and he's hit the crossbar.
Sensational from Mae Russell. Bill! Gareth Bale, NBE.
These home forwards are in fighting trim. John Charles again passing to Tapscott. He shoots and it's in. Wales have opened the scoring.
Great jump, free rush! Yes! 1-0!
And Wales have finished with a bit of a swagger.
Okay, Crusoe, welcome. Episode 191. My name is Russell, and it's just thee and thou this week, or tonight, I should say, Gaz. How are you keeping? Okay? Good summer?
Yeah, I'm well. Lovely summer. Thank you, Russ. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. And at this point, at the end of August, final day in August, 31st of August, Sunday evening, new term about to start. Is it excitement, trepidation, bit of both on your part?
I don't expect massive amounts of sympathy for our wider listenership of people who presumably work 47, 48 weeks a year, but this day is quite a dark day for a lot of teachers, but not as bad as some others actually. You are quite refreshed after a good 6 weeks. It's not like the first week back in January or anything like that. So yeah, it'd be good. It'd be exciting.
Got your new sandwich box and your new sort of pencil case and stuff ready?
New special diary that my wife ordered for me from
There we go.
Sort of teacher stationery cult that she appears to be a member of and take all of her money. So. Yeah, grateful for that.
Well, all the best for the final few days and all the prep involved. I think, when was the squad announced? Was it the Tuesday or Wednesday? So it's been a few days out. Craig Bellamy was his typically sort of effusively sort of bullish sort of way in press conferences and interviews. So we're just going to have a little look at some of the talking points. Not that there's a huge number, I don't imagine, in terms of the squad, but maybe look ahead to the two games. Kazakhstan away, a long way away, and Canada. Welcoming Canada for the first time in about 20 odd years. We've been playing up at the racecourse, I remember. And I suppose we've probably got to start with, may as well start with Reuben Colwill, because although on one hand, I don't think it was a huge surprise, on the other, it was nevertheless probably the biggest talking point. Aaron Ramsey probably sort of next, maybe. But you're seeing Reuben Colwill, there's a few Cardiff City players in the squad, but you're seeing Reuben up close at Cardiff. What do you make of his omission?
Yeah, not a massive surprise. I wouldn't say that I was outraged or anything by it. There are a contingent of Cardiff City fans who may be a bit surprised and championing because he's started the season really well and he's playing really, really good football. But the reality is Cardiff City have been relegated, and we've talked around a lot of players and their inclusion or not in the past with regard to the levels they're at. The League One isn't the Championship, and it certainly isn't the Premier League, and it certainly isn't international football. So it would be more remarkable if he wasn't lighting up League One at this stage, I would think. But Bellamy's not wrong, as we've discovered under previous managers in the Championship, that the consistency is yet to be proven, and other things about his game, perhaps in terms of taking very clear tactical instruction to play the kind of role he's needed to. There have been times where managers have been able to say, look, go and do your thing and give him a bit of a free role. But, he's not at a level of importance in the Welsh setup where that's going to happen in international games. So Bellamy needs to see someone who can fit his system, take instruction, be consistent, be reliable, not occasionally make sloppy decisions. As even this season, there's been bits of it. Notwithstanding, he has been excellent. So, yeah, I don't think there's anything unreasonable in what Bellamy said in the interview. And Bellamy also talked about being quite optimistic about his inclusion in the future. So I think that's fair enough.
To what extent is it a question of? I mean, because a critical take on his form, his start to the season is, oh, he's found his level. Maybe I don't think that personally, but I have heard one or two people say, is it maybe because Murphy's giving him, Barry Murphy, sorry, is giving him maybe a bit more freedom? Is it a bit more responsibility? Is he just maybe a better man manager for him? I mean, kind of what do you think's behind it, or is it just he's playing maybe beneath the level that he is capable of, and he's just doing kind of what we would hope and expect, frankly? Because that's how I got Bellamy's comments in the conference, in the press conference, was that he's great, but this is the least we should be expecting from him at this level.
Yeah, I think it's maybe early to make a sort of definitive judgment on the reasons for that at this stage, but it's probably a combination of a few of those things. He's been made vice captain, and in reality is captaining the team because Callum Chambers, who's the new captain, has been mostly on the bench. So he is getting some responsibility. He does visibly look on the pitch like he's taking that up on his shoulders as well. He is much more central in the way we're playing. He's not going missing for large parts of games. But again, that's partly due to the fact that we are now at a level where we're playing well, we're dominating possession. So a lot of it will be down to the type of football that Brian Barry Murphy is trying to play. Again, early days, but Brian Barry Murphy does really seem like a breath of fresh air at the club, and God knows City have needed it for a while, and that's the sort of thing that I would imagine would rub off on Colwill. Bit like Bellamy, he is someone who's got a very clear idea of the habits he wants from his players, of kind of quite astute tactical planning and preparation. So hopefully that will help Colwill's chances at an international level going forward. But, I would keep coming back to the thing where, not that he's found his level, he is at a level that is beneath him, and therefore his performances are going to reflect that, I think, inevitably. The standards are just that bit lower, and therefore we're not going to know for another year whether, or hopefully within another year, when he makes that step up again to play football at a higher level, whether he has progressed and demonstrate through that his worthiness to be a regular inclusion. And I suppose the one caveat you might give it is that, well, Aaron Ramsey's not in the squad, so there is a sort of potentially a space for someone in that sort of position who can play that sort of role. Maybe he feels that between Brooks and Wilson, he's got enough.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's a little bit of competition for the position and the role he'd likely play in a Bellamy kind of setup. Broadhead, a little bit of a wider player. Lewis Kumas the same. Jordan James might play a little bit more advanced. I mean, probably not actually in this window, given Ampadu's injured as well. But it's not that he's been overlooked this season, having been a settled regular member of the squad previously either. So I've sensed a little bit of outrage on the part on the socials as to be perhaps to be expected. But like I said, I wasn't hugely surprised. That said, the Canada game would strike me as the sort of game that might be worth giving him a go, because if it's not this window and it's the next window, it's Belgium. Well, okay, possibly not, and then England away, and you get a sense, well, if he is called up for that, does he end up going up to Wembley and, I don't know, we put in another sort of insipid performance where, and he's played England before in a friendly, we don't lay a glove on them, which tends to be the case in recent history, and that's it. He's kind of sort of forgotten about again. It's all, all talk and no trousers again for him. So that was that's my kind of worry a little bit, is that he doesn't.
I think that's a fair point.
The next chance he gets is against quality opposition, and I don't know, it just kind of keeps kind of not happening for him.
Yeah.
But
I think that's a fair point. That Canada game might be the sort of game where players on the fringes like that, might be called up to try and do something. But again, I don't know. Like, it remains to be seen what sort of faith Bellamy will have longer term in getting a lot from those sort of games. I don't know what sort of 11's likely to play in that Canada game. I don't know what sort of 11's likely to play in even an England game, given it's just a few days before we play Belgium. That's right, isn't it? The England game's before the Belgian game. So I suppose it depends what Bellamy sees those sort of friendlies as being for. But, naturally you'd assume it would be to try out players who are on the fringes of potentially being important players in the future. I don't know.
Yeah. Obviously, a couple of the kind of players in there, uncapped, and Tender might otherwise reasonably expected to be in the 21s because they've got a fixture, a qualifier indeed against Denmark. Ronan Capaccio and Dylan Lawler, who I think the latter signed a new contract as well, which is a vote of confidence in him and his potential then at the club. Tell us a little bit more about those two if people aren't aware. I've seen Capaccio for the under-19s, I think it was, and I was impressed with him. He looked very athletic at that level. Bit of a step up when you're playing with the adults and the grown men, but at that level I thought he looked quite athletic and very mobile and good on the ball, good technique, which I think is part of the course these days with the youngsters coming through. But if people don't know much about either of those.
Yeah, it's been a really exciting start to League One for Cardiff City in that respect more than any other, that for most of the games so far, you've had 4, 5, 6 in some cases young Welsh players in the starting 11 or in the match day squad, and those two have been real standouts. And Capaccio in particular, what you're starting to see is the steepness of his progress and his confidence as a fixture in the first team. You know, when we played first game of the season against Pêl-droed, we sort of won narrowly and played pretty well, and he was good, maybe had moments where you could see he was a little bit raw. And within 5 games, he just looks like completely at home. It's a massive change in the way we've played. Managers in the Championship didn't really want to put faith in players coming out of the academy, and you can kind of understand that. It's a bigger risk at Championship level, particularly given it's been a 3-year battle against relegation. You know, you need, I suppose, known quantities in those scenarios. Not that really helped us in the end. But now that we've got that sort of opportunity to bring these players through, and again, Brian Barry Murphy, you know, in any other summer like we've had, we might have been bemoaning the lack of transfer activity. Cardiff have only signed one player, a goalkeeper, on loan all summer. But what's happened is they haven't released a huge number of players, and then where they have released players, he seems to have this willingness to sort of supplement the squad with a variety of young players, of which Capaccio is a real standout. He's excellent going forward. You can see him doing those sort of things that someone like Bellamy would like. You know, he'll pick up the ball, he'll bring it in field a little bit, he'll get up and down the flank, you know, not dissimilar to Connor Roberts really well. Brian Barry Murphy wants the ball, even in some pretty tight and risky scenarios, to be sort of played out. There's not a lot of just knocking it up the line, which we would have done previously. And that gets, you know, a new player caught out. He has been caught out a couple of times this season trying to do that. But the fact he's got the confidence to do it is really, really good. And he's 19, as is Lawler, 19. And Lawler is going to be a player. He's the absolute business. He's big, strong, centre-half, brings the ball out of defence brilliantly, pinging crossfield balls, you know, all over the pitch at the minute into the sort of wingers at Cardiff. He's a real talent, and I think that contract's really important because there'll be clubs looking at him pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, both have been in squads previously. Lawler Kate was called up for Belgium, Capaccio towards the end of last season as well. Lawler's captained Wales under 16 and 19th level, I'm reading here. So again, he's got those leadership skills. So again, suggests he's got a good head on him, mature, perhaps the sort of player that's not going to be fazed by getting first team action at a relatively tender age.
And I think, like, you can see had it not been slightly forced by injury, for example, right back Perry NG started the season injured, he's fit again now. He's going to, he's a well-established Cardiff City first team player. He's going to struggle to get back in the team. I can't see anything other than an injury or a run of bad form replacing Capaccio now. And the start of the season, even after Callum Chambers was made captain, he's found himself on the bench with 19-year-old Lawler and I think Will Fish, who's only 21, 22, partnering in central defence. And they look like real old hands together kind of already. So the fact that these are players who at 19, a new manager and, all right, it's going well at the minute, but a difficult situation, a big change from all those years of Championship football. The fact that they're at the heart of the changes that are taking place, I think is really encouraging, and they look to be big talents for the future. Bit of a shout as well, not that I want to make this too much a Cardiff City Club podcast, but Bellamy did in his interview talk about, as well as Ruben Colwell, being impressed with Joel Colwell's start to the season. He's in the under-21s, very different sort of midfield player to Ruben. I don't think is going to have the same sort of issues around inconsistency and slightly kind of maybe flightiness and unreliability. And he started the season brilliantly, and he's only 20, I think, 21 maybe this year. And he looks like he's on a very steep progression and level of improvement as well. He's been fantastic so far this season. So yeah, lots of positives coming through. And then there's a couple of other, there's Mafiko, and I suppose you've still got Isaac Davis and Cian Ashford and players like that who are featuring quite heavily as well. So Cardiff City for finally doing something hopefully to contribute to the emergence of young Welsh footballers at a decent level, because it's been a while.
Yeah, I guess it has. Eli King sadly out for the season, though, isn't he? He's had a nasty knee injury, but he'd be another name otherwise in the mix. One of the things I like the look of with Lawler is sometimes you get those players with our 21 set up about, and we talk a lot about the pathway and that kind of thing, and that culture and identity thing is, and it's all about bringing players through for the senior team and not keeping them there for the sake of keeping them there. Maybe unless there's like a crunch qualifier or something for the 21s, maybe. These players don't seem to have like huge number of caps. They don't have a huge number of under 21 caps. It's almost like they're progressing kind of like through it really, really quickly into the senior squad, which I think is that's always a good sign. When someone is still maybe playing at the 21s for like, I don't know, unless they were playing there at like 16 or something ridiculous, they're there with like 12, 13, 14 caps. I'd sometimes worry, I don't know, someone like an Owen Beck type figure who still hasn't made his senior debut, lots of caps at 21s. It's almost like they're not pushing through, whereas these players that kind of accelerate through the 21s, I think can sometimes be a good sign. I think it was interesting that you mentioned Joel Colwell almost as much as he did Ruben in the press conference, did Bellamy. So yeah, given that we have a goalkeeping vacancy, at the time of recording, I don't think there's been anything formally said about Ward. Certainly not from the Wales camp. Phil Parkinson at Wrexham said that he's almost certainly going to be out. The concussion that he incurred in his injury probably would rule him out, let alone the elbow or the arm or the arm injury or whatever it is that he's got. So I've not seen any update on that. So I think the expectation is that he'll drop out, and there's another goalkeeper coming through. And there's this Matt Turner, who seems to have come from nowhere. Am I right in thinking he's not first choice? Is Barry Murphy rotating them, or has he got a clear first choice and Turner's they're going to be second choice?
Yeah,
but maybe breathing hard.
Yeah, so I think I put on our WhatsApp chat when the team came out for the first game of the season, start of August, do we have a Welsh goalkeeper starting in the top three divisions of the English pyramid klaxon we can sound? Because I hadn't expected it at all for him to get a game against Peterborough. And he was really good, actually. He wasn't called on to do a lot, but he had 3 or 4 really crucial moments where the result could have slipped. So I was a little bit, at first, disappointed then. We brought in Nathan Trott on loan. I have to say, Trott has been fantastic. So he's clearly Brian Barry Murphy's first choice. He can do really confidently all the things you can see Murphy wants to do, play with his feet. He's a fantastic shot stopper as well. And he's made some incredible saves in the last couple of games. So he's number one. Turner's had another game, though, in the Coca-Cola Cup. Not Coca-Cola Cup, what is it now? League Cup, whatever iteration of the League Cup we're in these days.
We were talking about this last time, Hugh and I. I think it's the Rumbelows. I think it's back to Rumbelows now.
Okay. I think, I heard you talking about it last time. I think you might have missed out Worthington, because definitely Worthington Cup was a bit of a stretch, was it for a bit of a while. That's probably my era as well.
Spotter's badge, well done.
Yeah. But he's had another game in the League Cup, and he seems to be on the bench, second choice. I think Horvath has gone. Looks like Alnick will go as well. So I think he's going to be backup keeper. He might get a few cup games, and he's only 23, I think. So as much as any other Welsh keeper is, I suppose he's someone that they should be looking at, because, as we've discussed many a time, we are not blessed with options.
No, there's no one really in the under-21s that you look and kind of immediately jump through, because what's interesting with the 21 keepers is that I think at least 2 of them, possibly all of them, are out on loan, so they're not getting game time at their parent clubs, and they're having to kind of go quite far, as it were. So you've got Evan Watts, Swansea keeper, Kit Margetson, son of Martin. It's at the Swans as well, both out on loan. Galway and Connah's Quay, respectively. Luke Armstrong on loan at Penabon from Cardiff City. So there doesn't seem many options there. So if Ward is going to drop out, he's probably looking between Turner, which might be a little bit of a left field kind of selection, given he's not played a huge amount of times, or then it's kind of like usual backup Tom King, who I noticed joined Everton the other day to be probably no doubt like fourth choice or third at best. And then there's that David Harrington, who had a call up last year as well, who was born in Ireland but to a Welsh dad. So it's been a bit of a problem position for years in terms of playing time. If there was any chance that Ward was going to get the nod by Bellamy, clearly that's not going to happen. But if he was going to get it because he was playing, Darlow hasn't been other than the odd cup game. It looks like it's going to be back to Darlow, which is kind of fine because I think Darlow's done okay for us in the few caps he's had. Yeah, I don't think there's a huge amount necessarily to talk about at goalkeeper. It's a shame Ethan Ampadu's not fit because he started really, really well for Leeds, who've done okay, but I mean probably battered Everton by all accounts in the season opener for them, and he was looking good. And I think he's club captain this year. Am I right in saying?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the Leeds start to the season has been quite encouraging from our perspective, isn't it? They've had a couple of good results. It appears like James, Ampadu and Roden are all very much part of the first team still, despite the signings and the jumping up. It's a real shame for Ampadu, and he no doubt will be back in the team at some point. But, nice to have those lads playing at a higher level, test themselves a bit more, I think, for Dan James maybe in particular, but Joe Roden to an extent as well. They've both got in them those sort of occasional bits of poor judgment. You might think Dan James, perhaps 1 in every 3, is not going to quite make the right choice about a cross or a ball or a decision. Roden has had his kind of patches. I think that regular testing at a more elite level, hopefully, would be a good thing, as long as they don't, as a lot of newly promoted clubs have been in the last few years, become a bit of a club that's losing every week, and that can have a more negative effect. But they seem to have started quite brightly.
Yeah. A bit weird not having Connor Roberts in the squad as well.
Yeah. Injured at the minute, and I wonder about him at Burnley. They've signed Kyle Walker, haven't they?
Yeah.
So he's going to be fighting a little bit more for his position, but he's well loved by Burnley fans. So hopefully he'll get a bit of a chance when he's back fit. I don't think it's a long-term thing. I think he's back sometime after the international break, from what I was reading today. So yeah, it's just strange. How many games has he missed in his entire Welsh career? Not many.
Well, this is it. And I know he had that illness, didn't he, when he was like hospitalised and he was apparently very poorly, but he's just, when he's played this, it just seems to be always there. I mean, I would have thought maybe for us it's kind of grounds to get the games postponed.
Yeah.
We can't, hang on, we can't not have Connor around. I mean, like, again, it's a bit difficult to say, isn't it? Because it's, the transfer window is still open, so there's some players who are going to be looking over their shoulder thinking, okay, is there going to be somebody coming at the last minute to snap on my shirt, breathing a sigh of relief when the window shuts a little bit, probably later this evening, I guess, and they can rest a little bit easier if someone doesn't come in. You've still got some new managers kind of still maybe playing around with their squad. So I saw that Kai Andrews has been on the bench, but then wasn't in the last matchday squad for Coventry. So it still feels really, really, really early. It is still early days in terms of the season for players. But I noticed Chris Mepham moved to West Brom the other day and was very, very impressive on debut the other day in a win for them, which was kind of like a move that I thought it's probably needed to happen a while ago. Actually, just seemed to be gone as far as he was going to at Bournemouth. That relationship seemed to have sort of come to a natural end. And if he plays in either of these games this window, he'll get to 50 caps, which is I think well deserved as well. Nico's not too far behind him. I look at here, he's been playing as well. So there's players with some minutes under their belt as well, which I think is important, given that Kazakhstan aren't, they're not the strongest opposition. I don't think they pose us a huge number of problems when we face them at home. Their results early this year, nothing to kind of be particularly worried about. Belarus gave them a good drubbing. They beat Curacao in a friendly on neutral territory in Turkey. I can see here. It's that kind of like travel, and I can see him kind of managing the squad over the 2 games, and I can see that Canada game being one of those friendlies again, at Swansea, which again is a little bit of a track record where some of those fringe players, maybe your Kapakios, your Lawlers, maybe Adam Davis, those sort of players getting a cap or two, Jay De Silva. So I can imagine Bellamy's quite happy going into this window in terms of who he's got, notwithstanding it's probably Ampadu and Connor not being available.
I think so. I mean, it's a cliche I'm sure we've come back to lots of times, but I think I will always believe that the more players you've got playing regularly at the best possible level helps Wales when it comes to squad selection and confidence and form going into games. We talked earlier about players finding their level, perhaps with reference to Colwell, who we hope will go on to better things he's currently at. I think with someone like Mepham, that's probably about right, isn't it? Sunderland last year, I think he was with for a spell, promotion chasing championship team. West Brom, I imagine, would hope to be in a similar sort of position this season. He probably isn't ever going to quite cut it as a Premier League defender. So I think the best thing for us is that he does find somewhere early each season to be playing regular, and when he's called on, then as he may well have to be, but not as bad as goalkeeper, but we're not exactly flush with a lot of really reliable central defensive options. I think he is going to play games, at some point. So yeah, it's good to have him available. Good having Nico Williams playing left back as well for Forest. I kind of think positionally as well, it kind of helps these players to be a bit more sort of finely tuned in what we're going to need them to do in the Wales games. So yeah, I think most of our key players, David Brooks as well, he seems to be starting the season well and in the Bournemouth team. So yeah, I think we probably haven't had a start of season squad where at least the players you'd expect to start the Kazakhstan game are largely playing pretty well and certainly playing, and many of them at a decent level as well.
Yeah. Brennan Johnson off the mark for the season as well with a couple. Kiefer Moore's scoring looks like fairly regularly for Wrexham. I mean, you never expect him to be like a prolific striker, but he's already got a couple under his belt as well. Although interestingly, Bellamy in the press conference made a point of saying that Kiefer great, but he plays in a different system at Wrexham than what he's going to be playing with Bellamy. So, but that said, it's good to see him in the goals in terms of like coming in confidence and notwithstanding Ward probably dropping out, it'd been over 10 years since Wrexham had a player in the Wales squad, and then 3 suddenly arrive all at once with Broadhead and Moore. So
you can. It's a kind of strange, not quite conflict, but almost great to have Wrexham in the Championship. Great that they're bringing in Welsh players and contributing to the Welsh squad. I suppose Bellamy's giving something away there in that you do wonder what a Parkinson team, particularly at a level where maybe even he as a manager is going to be stretched a little bit in terms of his own abilities, what the sort of football being played there and what the system there will do for players when they make the transition into the international squad. But, a positive thing nonetheless. You any insight into how Broadhead started?
I think he's still finding his feet, I think it's fair to say. I mean, he spent a lot of his career, he was at Everton for donkey's years. He then goes to, my mind's gone blank, Ipswich, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Who were upwardly mobile. So I think he's just sort of trying to find his feet where you've got players that maybe who've come up from sort of League One or maybe played all their career at Championship, and as well the whole first team is basically almost having to kind of evolve, almost like game by game. There's been new additions for Wrexham, kind of like game by game by game. Listen to Tim Edwards, who joined us in the last episode for the Joey Jones tribute, and his fearless and devotion for a much more thorough and knowledgeable insight than anything that I can provide. But I think the fact they got that win against Millwall, I think, is a little bit of a that's going to bring a lot of relief, because although they've been competitive, it's an interesting balance, isn't it? Because crikey, they're playing a Championship, and just 4 seasons ago they were playing. 3 seasons ago they were playing in non-league, and so this is just kind of great. Well, yeah, but then they've also spent a few quid as well. Yeah. So it's the latter brings with it demands, and you can't necessarily make those excuses. And I'm not aware that necessarily anybody in and around the club had been making those sort of excuses. But the longer that first win, it's for any promoted club, isn't it, at any level, the longer that it takes for that first win to come on, it just begins to become a little bit of a millstone, really. But they haven't been outclassed. They struggled, I thought, in the second half against Southampton in the season opener. Maybe that's been a little bit of the occasion. They've improved the team and the squad even since that game with the players they brought in. So if he'd been able to do his business, Parkinson, early in the window, then I think they'd have probably been in a better place. But there's a lot of clubs doing their business late in it, isn't it? It's a weird one, really.
The way it goes now, isn't it? Talk of Jordan James as well. Though Leicester, I read today as well, maybe, and Ipswich perhaps, but Wrexham seem to be looking at him as well. He'd be an interesting additional Welsh player to bring in.
And Ipswich are spending a lot of money. I mean, people kind of talk about the money Wrexham are spending, but Ipswich have spent, I mean, they've got parachute money, I suppose, but they've set a new record for the Championship level, I think, like a 17, 18 million pound purchase. So it's just, the numbers are incredible, really.
Yeah.
No Aaron Ramsey, which again, that wasn't a surprise. I mean, it's a long old trip from Mexico just to Cardiff and then to kind of go all the way to Kazakhstan. I did look at it thinking, would it be better for him just to kind of keep going east after the Kazakhstan game? Should he be, had he been selected and just to kind of carry on? Is he? I think he's almost closer to Mexico in Kazakhstan if he just carried on going east than if he'd gone back west. It was just sort of ridiculous, and of course only just back playing at all. So that wasn't a surprise. And Bellamy, I saw today, was talking about there should be a statue for him and still singing his praises. And I know they are close, both as former teammates as anything. He just needs to play, isn't it? And just let him get on with it over there.
I think I'm on board with the statue, fine. But I think anything that Ramsey's going to contribute from now on, I think I'm more in hope than expectation about that. In fact, not even hope. I think we kind of discussed this in a previous pod. More like it's a nice bonus if he's able to play some games, or if he ends up, being in a position to be part of a World Cup squad should we qualify, then great. But if we're honest, he played 20 games in 2 years at Cardiff City. He had a fairly patchy season at an unsuccessful loan spell at Rangers. He's coming up on over 3 seasons of not really being able to stay fit or stay in a team with any degree of sort of form or consistency. And I wouldn't be knowledgeable enough to know whether a move to the Mexican League helps or hinders the chances to change that pattern or that trajectory. Great if it does. If not, hopefully it's a nice little swan song for his career either way. And should circumstances dictate that he's not really available very much or able to be part of a World Cup squad, well, that would be a shame. But I think probably statues to reflect past contributions are far more probably real for us now than Aaron Ramsey having a massive future as part of the Welsh squad, if that's not too downbeat to say.
Yeah, it's always the body that's let him down, isn't it? And he hasn't played this calendar year, and he only played twice in the last calendar year. So, and Belly made a point of saying that he hasn't had him much, and when he has had him, though, he was excellent. Okay, fair enough. I think there's a little bit of managing the public announcements, if you like, about it all, and managing the comms. I don't think that's necessarily the most honest appraisal, but I'm sure he brings a lot. Not just to what he brings on the pitch, of course. Anything else to say, really? It's nice that the games are back. The under-21s, as I said, have got a game. Chris Gunter's is he under 18s or 17s? Got 2 games in Estonia, preparation for some qualifiers for them coming up. You've got the Gary Speed, Cup on Gary Speed at the moment with this taking place with us, Northern Ireland, Japan and Gibraltar, which is a bit of a random selection. Yeah. Around North Wales, which I get the impression is sort of like another preparation for the 19 sort of Euros that we're hosting next year. Nice. Again, just to kind of iron out some creases. So I think we've done okay in those. So yeah, it's nice to have the window back, the international fixtures back. Nice to take a game down to Swansea, where we're playing Canada. They're at their all-time highest ever position in the FIFA rankings, I noticed earlier.
Oh, yeah.
A handful of places above us, not many. But they went out on penalties in the Gold Cup, so But from what I can gather, the little research I've done, if I'm honest, online, from like fan pages and things, there were some fans there expecting them to go and to do well in that tournament and to go out on penalties, I think, to Nicaragua. It was a disappointment, albeit, the lottery of penalties and all the rest of it. They're playing Romania beforehand on the Friday night, so it's a little kind of European tour for them. So I don't know whether they may be just selecting maybe majority players from Europe. Sometimes the countries over there can do that. But I remember being quite impressed with them at the World Cup. Maybe not as effective as a couple of other teams were, but they seemed to play boldly and bravely, and they just kind of played with tempo and maybe lacked a little bit of quality aside from one or two players. Fonte Davis is an obvious one, Jonathan David, but I was impressed with how bold they were. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what they look like as well.
I think there's a kind of there's
That's a good test. I think.
I think it will be. I think there's a bit of a historical pattern, isn't there, with the sort of North and Central American Federation, where it's probably the federation that has the most potential to slightly inflate your FIFA ranking by virtue of the sort of, I think, number of games you're playing and who you're playing them against. And quite often teams like Canada, or in the past Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, they get found out, I suppose, in World Cups when they play more competitive games against more serious opposition. But I think you're right about Canada. They weren't bad in the last World Cup. They had one, quite strong performance in particular. And it's just nice to play someone different, isn't it? And it seems to be a really good sort of opposition to get maybe some of the newer inclusions, people like Crew and Andrews, and maybe the lads from Cardiff City getting some caps.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels a bit like the Gibraltar friendly we had, the home one at Wrexham, not the away one. We don't talk about that.
No.
Where players like Savage, Crew, Joe Lowe got a game, those sorts of players, and Canada are a lot stronger than Gibraltar, admittedly, but I can see him making a few changes. But I also get the impression with Bellamy that he won't make any allowances or excuses for that. He'll still expect diligent attention paid to the game plan, and he'll want performances, and he won't be making any allowances if there is a slip up at home. But looking forward to it, and then it's a big window. The next one, that's a really important game. So. Yeah. I know they always say, take it one game at a time and all the rest of it, but that's a little bit make or break that next window. Yeah, no, it's looking quietly confident. Can I push you for some predictions for the Kazakhstan game?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough, isn't it? That those long away trips. I think I'd find it unlikely that we would go out there and blow them away. I think Macedonia won 1-0. In Kazakhstan, in one of the kind of recent windows. I'd take that right now. 1-0 win where I think they scored after about half an hour. 1-0 win where we score after about half an hour, and just sort of fairly comfortable after that would be amazing. I think that's probably as likely a scenario as any. I think we've got it in us to drop points in these kind of things, but we can't really afford to now. Not with Macedonia. Performing pretty well. They've had a draw with Belgium, and a draw with us, so we can't really afford any mistakes. Yeah, 1-0 to Wales.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where, as much as it's nice to win by a few, it's almost as and particularly in this kind of within the evolution of where Bellamy is, because I think we've had some good results. We've let results go as well. I think that Iceland game away in the Nations League, we should have won that game and we threw it away. Belgium was a weird one. I still think a defining performance under Bellamy, I think we're still waiting for it. So just to be able to manage a game, if we were to get our noses in front and just to manage the game, whereby there's very little threat on our goal, I think would actually be pretty good as well. It's been kind of like some highs and then some not real lows, don't get me wrong, but I mean, there's also been some moments where you think, hang on a minute, this isn't working, and it looks disjointed, and it's almost kind of like just bombing forward for the sake of bombing forward, whereas maybe a little bit like game management, so far away from home, I think would be really, really good. I imagine it's probably going to be quite warm there as well. I mean, I was looking on the map earlier. It's further east than Kabul.
Yeah.
And I think, I want to say Mumbai maybe, in like the west of India, which is bonkers. But yeah, so yeah, well, I'll say 2-0 then. I'll say 2-0.
I think it further. I mean, what you talked there about, like, sort of being able to manage the game, perhaps control if we're ahead. I mean, that it kind of even further emphasises what a loss Ethan Ampadu is going to be in this game. I think getting right what we do in the centre of midfield, what Jordan James is able to do, because he hasn't really played any football, I don't think, this year. And then Sheehan's been up and down when he's had chances to play. If he ends up being in one of those roles, those are going to be really, really crucial, what we do in Ampadu's absence.
Yeah. And I think actually, again, we only mentioned it very, very briefly in dispatches, but without Ampadu in the middle, without Ramsey in the middle, okay, without Colwell then, for what it's worth in terms of some of the other noise that there's been around him, it's another one of these games where it's like, okay, over to you, Harry Wilson. You're now our clutch player in these sorts of fixtures. You're the one who's got to come up with, maybe David Brooks a little bit as well, but you're the player, and Brennan Johnson, those kind of players. But actually, you're the one who's got to be in there, getting on the ball, and really, putting down kind of like these statement performances, which I think he's perfectly expect him to kind of do that, if you like. But yeah, that's what we need from him, and he's been in the goals as well for us. So I'm hoping it's like, okay, maybe it's only a narrow win, a 1-0 or 2-0 or whatever, but there's a couple of good sort of statement performances from a couple of those sorts of players as well. And then no doubt that later the same day on Thursday, Belgium will probably put a cricket score past Liechtenstein. Away. That's the other fixture in the group. And then in that weekend, obviously, when we're playing Canada, you've got North Macedonia home to Liechtenstein, and Belgium then home to Kazakhstan. You're expecting Belgium to pick up 6 points. So the complexion of the group is again, it's like what I said, it's going to make that next window huge. But that's for another time.
Yeah.
Anything else to raise?
No, I think covered that quite nicely for this window for me.
Yeah, I think so. I'll let you go back to organising your pens and your pencils and your rulers and set squares and protractors. You don't need many of those in history, do you? I don't suppose.
No. I wouldn't know what to do with a set square, if I'm honest.
No, as soon as I said it, was just like, what's that for? Guys, really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your holidays, and good luck for the new term.
Yeah, no worries, mate. See you soon.
And as Gaz and I were shooting the breeze for that episode, Aaron Ramsey was doing this over in Mexico.
Nuevamente tiro de esquina. Y es para Pumas.
Who the hell are we to doubt the man? Clutch does as clutch is.
Centro para Donda de frente, gol. Gol. Gol de Pumas. Aaron Ramsey festeja este gol y demuestra todo tu juego en Codere. Y que se cuiden los famosos. Aaron Ramsey está metiendo gol en la Liga Mexicana. Y llegó así. De frente, nadie supo por dónde apareció el galés. Y termina empujando la pelota. Ahí está Aaron Ramsey. Entrando de cambio y dando el gol que puede ser el de la victoria para el equipo de los Pumas.